Trembling with uncharacteristic dread, the young Luna Merlin deeply braces herself to address her revered older sibling, the highly esteemed Lady Riefel. Desperately attempting to steady her violently shaking knees, Luna stands completely paralyzed by tension while wearing her favorite delicate negligee. A sudden, suffocating wave of undeniably heavy silence violently crashes down upon the intensely strained and darkly quiet atmosphere. Towering intimidatingly above her frightened sister, Riefel completely pierces through Luna's crumbling defenses with a chillingly listless and terrifyingly icy gaze. Caught completely off guard by the surreal visual, a deeply flustered Luna frantically stammers aloud, actively questioning the massive pillow her intense sister fiercely grips. Dismissing the utter absurdity of the incredibly tense confrontation, Riefel sharply commands the violently trembling girl as if scolding a highly disobedient child. Shrugging off all rational hesitation, the powerful elder sister utterly abandons whatever bizarre logic previously anchored their highly unusual nocturnal standoff. Declaring an incredibly forceful and unbreakable eternal bond, Riefel boldly demands that they sleep peacefully beside one another from this day forward forevermore. Reflecting heavily upon the sheer madness of her current predicament, Luna vividly traces the chaotic narrative spiral back to its absolute triggering origin. Plunging deep into her rapidly spinning recent memories, the narrative violently rewinds the timeline to a seemingly ordinary academic day precisely 2 days ago. Lamenting the highly disastrous sequence of ensuing events, she aggressively swears the triggering incident concluding their rigorous morning class was a genuine, unavoidable accident. As the incredibly grueling examination period rapidly approaches the academy, an undeniably heavy pressure ruthlessly blankets the entire exhausted student body. The demanding instructor strictly commands the noble daughters and prestigious students of the historic Glen Knight Royal Academy to diligently apply themselves to avoid absolute shame. Escaping the suffocating academic tension of the classroom, a deeply relieved Luna eagerly embraces the highly anticipated and immensely freeing arrival of the afternoon lunch break. Pondering her immediate culinary options amidst the bustling campus, the exhausted young student casually wonders where she should peacefully consume her midday meal. Frantically waving off her highly concerned classmates, a deeply flustered Luna firmly insists she is perfectly fine while hurriedly scribbling down the remaining complex lecture notes. Lingering quietly in the rapidly emptying academic hall, she desperately attempts to completely catch up on the overwhelmingly dense and deeply complicated historical material. Yielding entirely to overwhelming academic panic, she loudly abandons the frantic note-taking, deciding instead to shamelessly rely on her brilliant sister's highly superior future tutoring. A deafening roar of pure, unadulterated adoration suddenly shatters the grand hallways as ecstatic crowds wildly herald the spectacular arrival of the majestic Lady Riefel. Surrounded entirely by a massive, surging ocean of screaming admirers, the utterly flawless older sister gracefully strides through the captivated and highly energetic academy corridors. Exuding an overwhelmingly radiant and breathtakingly beautiful aura, Riefel effortlessly cements her undeniable status as the absolute, undisputed pride of the entire Royal Academy. Excited rumors enthusiastically swirl among the students that upon her prestigious graduation, the revered prodigy will be grandly welcomed into the Holy Church as the ultimate Grand Saintess. Granted extraordinary divine protection directly by God, a saintess exists as an unbelievably rare and profoundly mysterious miracle manifesting within the vast Glen Knight Kingdom. While her spectacular sibling brilliantly commands incredible healing powers to cure devastating injuries and illnesses, Luna bitterly reflects on her own starkly contrasting, deeply mundane mediocrity. Overhearing cruel, incredibly sharp whispers from gossiping aristocratic students, Luna absorbs the painfully dismissive remarks highlighting their complete, undeniable lack of physical resemblance. Feeling overwhelmingly awkward and deeply inadequate amidst the suffocating, endless praise for her sister, the highly uncomfortable Luna hastily retreats to her usual secluded sanctuary. Darting swiftly through the massive, highly bustling campus grounds, she desperately seeks a quiet, completely isolated refuge entirely free from the kingdom's oppressive social scrutiny. The highly energetic campus atmosphere suddenly shifts dramatically, violently pulling the collective, undivided attention of the academy toward a breathtakingly grand new royal arrival. Emerging with undeniable, earth-shattering royal majesty, the dashing second prince of the Glen Knight Kingdom, the highly revered Andrew, spectacularly enters the vibrant scene. A massive, deafening chorus of swooning, entirely love-struck fans completely erupts, wildly chanting for Prince Andy, as the charming royal effortlessly captivates their adoring hearts. Bathed completely in an impossibly dazzling and surreal light, the majestic outdoor courtyard practically sparkles magnificently under the overwhelming brilliance of the prince's magnetic charisma. Snapped violently back to her own harsh, time-constrained reality, Luna anxiously realizes her desperately precious lunch hour is rapidly slipping away amidst the chaotic royal spectacle. Decisively rejecting the overwhelming, highly intoxicating social drama of the royal visit, she firmly concludes that the dazzling prince's grand arrival has absolutely nothing to do with her. Slipping completely unnoticed through the highly distracted, wildly cheering crowds, the determined outcast steadily navigates her precise way toward absolute, thoroughly undisturbed solitude. Finding a wonderfully secluded outdoor haven utterly disconnected from the lively, deafening bustle, the deeply relaxed non-saintess happily embraces the practically perfect, highly inviting napping weather. Releasing a deeply profound, soul-cleansing sigh of absolute relief, Luna finally unwinds completely in her wonderfully tranquil and utterly, beautifully isolated grassy sanctuary. Eagerly preparing for a deeply relaxing, highly indulgent afternoon escape, she excitedly reveals a delightful, mouth-watering treat alongside her carefully chosen literary companion for the day. Modestly acknowledging her own distinct, undeniable lack of immense holy power, she openly and freely admits her personal talents are nowhere near as historically amazing as her sister's grand miracles. Despite lacking world-changing, incredibly rare divine abilities, Luna cheerfully takes deep, personal comfort in possessing her very own wonderfully unique, albeit admittedly little, special skill. Activating her deeply hidden, highly personal talent amidst the quiet breeze, the peaceful student seamlessly drifts into a profoundly deep and thoroughly comforting, undisturbed slumber. Declaring her ultimate fantasy, Luna happily embraces the boundless joy of dreaming the exact magical scenarios she deeply desires. Transitioning smoothly into her peaceful slumber, the young girl completely surrenders her entire consciousness to the whimsical, highly inviting dream world. Giggling softly like a carefree child, she eagerly immerses her vibrant mind into an enchanting, beautifully constructed fairy tale setting. Brimming with immense and undeniable excitement, Luna joyfully proclaims herself a radiant, incredibly beautiful princess within her colorful imagination. Revealing her extraordinary and deeply secret ability, she confidently explains that touching a sleeping person allows her to seamlessly enter their personal dreams. Clarifying her highly unique innate talent, she proudly notes that while anyone can train for lucid dreams, her own magical power operates entirely differently. Spotting a magnificent, grand celebration ahead, the enthusiastic dreamer eagerly urges her imaginary companions toward a spectacular, glittering dream castle. Shaking off a sudden, undeniably eerie feeling, she happily settles for simply reigning as the undisputed main character of her own vibrant fantasy. Glancing nervously around the increasingly strange environment, the bewildered girl quickly realizes the rapidly unfolding scenery completely contradicts her original romantic vision. Shocked to her absolute core by a sudden intrusion, she stares in utter disbelief at a mysterious, entirely unexpected figure occupying her supposedly private dreamscape. Completely frozen in sheer, unadulterated confusion, Luna lets out a breathless, trembling gasp as she wildly tries to comprehend the startling situation. Materializing flawlessly before her very eyes, a striking and incredibly handsome young man commands the eerie dreamscape with his undeniable, majestic presence. Recognizing the majestic royal intruder instantly, her rapidly beating heart drops as she accurately identifies him as the revered His Highness, Prince Andy. Plunged aggressively into absolute panic, the highly flustered student desperately questions why the dazzling prince has suddenly and inexplicably invaded her deepest subconscious. Blushing furiously at the highly scandalous scenario, she frantically scolds her own treacherous mind for unknowingly dreaming about such a captivatingly handsome man. Overwhelmed entirely by sheer, suffocating embarrassment, the frantic dreamer desperately attempts to shield her completely flustered and intensely glowing face. Stepping closer with undeniable, highly magnetic intensity, the mesmerizing royal figure completely shatters her fragile remaining sense of imaginary security. Screaming internally in pure flustered agony, she wildly labels the entire intense, breathtakingly close romantic encounter as completely and overwhelmingly indecent. Closing the remaining physical distance with startling, predatory speed, the enigmatic prince suddenly leans in, drastically amplifying the incredibly tense and heavy atmosphere. Trapped entirely in his magnetic, piercing gaze, Luna completely freezes as the dashing royal effortlessly dominates the surreal, highly intimate dream space. Gasping sharply in profound, mind-numbing shock, the completely overwhelmed girl struggles wildly to successfully process his sudden, incredibly overwhelming proximity. Startled violently by his deep, sudden voice, she yelps loudly in sheer terror before the prince can even finish articulating his unexpected sentence. Bowing frantically to the illusionary royalty, she desperately and wildly apologizes for her perceived extreme rudeness with intense, undeniable panic. Screaming a highly hasty and deeply frantic apology, the thoroughly embarrassed dreamer violently forces her own consciousness to immediately escape the scandalous illusion. Jolting violently awake in the bright real world, the breathless student heavily pants as she successfully escapes the wildly embarrassing and deeply overwhelming dream. Clutching her aggressively burning face in pure agony, she loudly laments committing such a deeply shameful and humiliating act before the kingdom's beloved prince. Trudging exhaustedly through her welcoming front doors, the deeply drained and thoroughly emotionally exhausted girl heavily announces her long-awaited arrival back home. Confronted abruptly by her deeply intense family, an anxious Luna nervously asks her parents and sister why they appear so incredibly and terrifyingly serious. Staring at her with heavy, undeniably chilling solemnity, her grave family slowly calls out her name in a highly dramatic, perfectly unified tone. Questioned directly about the royal prince, a fiercely sweating Luna stutters wildly while desperately attempting to deflect her mother's deeply terrifying inquiry. Dropping an absolute, earth-shattering bombshell, her highly serious parents calmly reveal that an official royal messenger just arrived directly from the Grand Palace. Paralyzed instantly by terrifying visions of brutal imprisonment and execution, she completely panics upon learning the mighty prince has officially summoned her. Utterly shattered by the highly unexpected royal decree, she loudly shrieks upon discovering she is officially commanded to stay at the court as a saintess. Piecing the chaotic, seemingly impossible puzzle together, her brilliantly perceptive sister Riefel calmly deduces the unexpected, deeply magical dream encounter with the royal prince. Frantically defending her absolute, untainted innocence, Luna wildly insists she never physically touched the prince despite their deeply sacred dream-sharing promise. Analyzing the highly unusual magical anomaly, Riefel smartly hypothesizes their subconscious minds accidentally connected through the massive napping tree's underlying mystical root system. Spiraling wildly into grand romantic delusions, an energetic Riefel loudly accuses the prince of aggressively plotting to monopolize Luna's undeniable, overwhelming cuteness. Glaring with intense, highly overprotective fury, the powerful Grand Saintess aggressively brands the respected royal prince as a shameless, highly dangerous womanizing playboy. Desperately shutting down the wildly exaggerated praise, a highly insecure Luna firmly insists the charming prince absolutely views her as nothing but a creepy weirdo. Brushing off her younger sister's deep, frustrating self-doubt, an exasperated Riefel passionately argues that the completely oblivious Luna simply fails to recognize her own boundless charm. Acknowledging her own limitations, Riefel gently explains that while she heals physical wounds, only Luna possesses the unique power to mend broken hearts. Empowering her younger sister, the Grand Saintess praises the incredible talent of a dream user who can directly touch and manipulate people's innermost feelings. Connecting the royal summons to her unique abilities, Luna quickly deduces that Prince Andy must secretly harbor deep, troubling anxieties within his own mind. Pondering the prince's mysterious struggles, the perceptive student wonders if his nightly torments stem from severe insomnia or horrifying nightmares. Resolving her internal conflict with newfound determination, Luna grips her hands tightly as she bravely prepares to face the daunting royal court. Bursting with undeniable resolve, the courageous younger sister boldly declares to Riefel that she will indeed answer the royal summons. Desperately wanting to utilize her unique gifts for good, the selfless girl vows to do absolutely anything to help ease the prince's hidden suffering. Touched deeply by her siblings' pure intentions, a beaming Riefel warmly praises Luna's incredibly kind and gentle nature. Preparing her sister for the magical task ahead, the protective saintess suddenly presents a mysterious, glowing mystical branch. Revealing the item's magical properties, Riefel explains that holding the branch together allows for seamless dream sharing. Gratefully accepting the magical artifact, a highly relieved Luna realizes she can now enter his dreams without suffering the sheer embarrassment of direct physical contact. Spiraling rapidly into absolute shock, the flustered dream user suddenly finds herself lying intimately in the very same bed as the handsome royal. Arriving at the Grand Palace mere moments ago, the bewildered girl barely had time for brief greetings before being immediately thrust into this scandalous co-sleeping arrangement. Apologizing smoothly for the abrupt summons, the charming prince casually acknowledges the extreme awkwardness of suddenly demanding she sleep beside him. Confirming his sharp suspicions about her magical tumble earlier that afternoon, Prince Andy realizes she possesses the extraordinary ability to consciously interfere with dreams. Deeply impressed by her hidden talents, the dazzling royal warmly praises her amazing and highly unique mystical capabilities. Pleading with unexpected vulnerability, the desperate prince gently asks the flustered dream user to show him a fun, joyful dream tonight. Sensing the heavy sorrow hidden beneath his request, a highly concerned Luna nervously asks if he secretly suffers from terrifying nightmares. Shattering his perfect public facade, the exhausted royal tragically confesses that he has been completely unable to sleep properly since the very day he was born. Staring blankly into the oppressive darkness, Prince Andy reveals the horrifying truth that he is mercilessly tormented by agonizing visions every single night. Overwhelmed by deep empathy, Luna grimaces as she powerfully imagines the utter dread of feeling pure fear every time one closes their eyes. Radiating genuine compassion, the sympathetic girl softly acknowledges the incredibly harsh and painful life the suffering royal must have endured. Reassuring the exhausted prince with a gentle, calming presence, Luna confidently promises that tonight's slumber will finally be safe and peaceful. Drifting seamlessly into the ethereal dreamscape, the powerful dream user activates her unique magic to successfully infiltrate the prince's troubled subconscious. Materializing smoothly within the shifting, misty void of the royal dream, Luna quickly scans the strange, atmospheric environment for any signs of the prince. Stunned by the unexpected sight of a crying toddler, the bewildered dream user stares in absolute shock at the weeping child occupying the dream. Recognizing the distinct royal features, Luna quickly deduces that the adorable, sobbing child is actually a manifestation of Prince Andy's innermost self. Startled by her sudden arrival, the tiny, tearful prince cautiously peeks out from his arms to look at the strange, mysterious intruder. Melting instantly at his overwhelming cuteness, Luna completely forgets her initial mission as she loudly marvels at the adorably tiny version of the dashing royal. Sniffling pitifully, the highly confused toddler prince timidly asks the strange, brightly lit girl to reveal her true identity. Puffing out her chest with heroic pride, Luna confidently introduces herself as the mighty dream user destined to fiercely defeat his agonizing nightmares. Gazing up with wide, intensely hopeful eyes, the vulnerable child prince desperately pleads with the magical girl to finally save him from his eternal torment. A sudden, terrifying tremor violently shakes the dreamscape, instantly shattering the peaceful atmosphere and plunging the space into deep, suffocating dread. Rising monstrously from the oppressive shadows, a colossal, terrifying demonic entity aggressively materializes directly behind the trembling child. Screaming in pure, unadulterated terror, the tiny prince wildly points out the horrifying demon rapidly closing in on their position. Spinning around in absolute shock, Luna gasps as she finally locks eyes with the grotesque, nightmarish beast haunting the prince's mind. Looming intimidatingly over the completely paralyzed duo, the massive, horrifying creature aggressively flexes its dark, oppressive power. Staring upward in sheer disbelief, the completely horrified dream user wildly questions the exact nature of the horrific monster towering above them. Realizing the true extent of the royal's daily suffering, Luna completely understands how horrifying it is that he continually faces such a terrifying beast every single night. Boiling over with immense, highly protective fury, the courageous dream user angrily vows to brutally crush the unforgivable monster that dares to torment the adorable prince. Reassuring the completely terrified child prince, a gentle Luna confidently declares that everything is perfectly okay now. Summoning her breathtaking magic, she enthusiastically commands the weeping young boy to look closely at the unfolding miracle. A gigantic, radiant flower instantly blossoms from the darkness, completely vanquishing the horrifying demon as the amazed toddler wildly cheers. Joyfully embracing the vibrant new landscape, they excitedly agree to play together safely in the bright, fearless flower field. Silently vowing to fiercely protect his peace, Luna promises the beloved royal will never suffer such agonizing horrors again. Channeling her ultimate magical power, she fiercely resolves to permanently banish his nightmares by crafting the most incredibly fun dream ever. Frolicking joyfully through the sunny meadow, the laughing toddler gleefully shows off his energetic, playful skills to a deeply smiling Luna. Plucking a beautiful blossom from the ground, the adorable child prince sweetly offers the radiant flower to his magical savior. Beaming with pure, unadulterated happiness, the tiny prince passionately expresses his deep, overwhelming gratitude and love for Luna. As the terrifying nightmare completely dissolves, the beautiful dreamscape seamlessly transitions into a profoundly tranquil and undisturbed rest. Slowly escaping the mystical realm of dreams, a heavy, peaceful silence beautifully blankets the grand royal bedroom as morning light softly filters in. Gently stirring awake from their shared slumber, a highly anxious Luna softly asks the resting prince how he currently feels. Staring at his own hands in absolute disbelief, Prince Andy quietly marvels at the miraculous, life-changing power of a true dream user. Suddenly realizing his highly embarrassing childhood display, the violently blushing prince aggressively shushes the confused girl before she can utter another word. Leaning in with intense, deeply flustered desperation, he strictly commands her to absolutely never reveal the vulnerable, highly intimate details of his dream. Trapped completely in his intense, incredibly close gaze, a highly flustered Luna simply stares back as the heavy, embarrassing silence wildly stretches on. Absorbing the overwhelming weight of his desperate royal secret, the speechless dream user nervously processes his incredibly frantic, wide-eyed demand. Shattering the tense atmosphere with a nervous laugh, Luna cheerfully assures the panicked prince that a dream user always maintains strict, absolute confidentiality. Bustling energetically into the room, polite maids quickly whisk a highly disoriented Luna away to efficiently begin her royal morning preparations. Greeting their beloved royal master, the incredibly stunned palace staff marvel openly at the prince's unprecedented, breathtakingly radiant morning glow. Cutting effortlessly through the cheerful morning chatter, a fully dressed and stunningly handsome Prince Andy confidently calls out Luna's name. Turning toward his magical savior with breathtaking sincerity, the dazzling royal offers a deeply genuine, incredibly heartwarming expression of immense gratitude. Stretching his arms with newfound, boundless energy, he happily declares feeling utterly incredible as the delighted staff wildly cheer his wonderful recovery. Standing majestically in the warm sunlight, Prince Andy smiles with a blinding, absolute radiance that Luna had never witnessed before. Stepping forward with immaculate, highly formal grace, a sharply dressed royal retainer firmly announces his absolute, unwavering dedication to the glorious prince. Bowing respectfully before her, the handsome knight Cliff warmly greets Lady Luna Merlin and gracefully offers to personally escort her for the day. Flustered but immensely grateful for the royal assistance, Luna quickly thanks the dashing escort as they prepare to depart toward the academy. Walking alongside the highly prestigious knight, a deeply overwhelmed Luna internally marvels at being treated with such unprecedented, intensely luxurious pampering. Praising her unbelievable magical achievement, Cliff warmly insists she entirely deserves this luxurious treatment for finally bringing genuine joy to the prince's mornings. Dropping a heartbreaking and heavy revelation, the serious knight explains that the suffering prince has endured the exact same agonizing nightmare since childhood. Bowing deeply in profound, overwhelming gratitude, Cliff earnestly thanks Luna for finally allowing his beloved master to wake up truly, wonderfully refreshed. Reflecting warmly on the buzzing palace, Luna happily realizes the entire castle staff was absolutely overjoyed to see their prince looking so incredibly well. Deeply moved by the massive outpouring of genuine love, Luna happily concludes that Prince Andy is fiercely and undeniably cherished by absolutely everyone. Fully validating her immense magical worth, Cliff confidently praises Luna as an absolutely wonderful dream user entirely worthy of their deepest, unwavering trust. Thrusting a massive, intimidating stack of official paperwork into her hands, the serious knight violently shatters her peaceful reverie with sudden administrative demands. Addressing her with highly imposing and undeniable royal authority, Cliff firmly calls out Lady Luna Merlin's full name to command her complete attention. Dropping an absolute, earth-shattering bombshell, Cliff formally declares that by the king's direct order, she must permanently sleep beside the prince every night. Completely paralyzed by the outrageous royal decree, a deeply horrified Luna screams aloud in absolute, unadulterated disbelief at her terrifying new fate. Her entire mind violently short-circuiting from shock, the utterly bewildered dream user stands completely frozen as the massive reality of her permanent co-sleeping arrangement sets in. Leaving her completely trapped in a whirlwind of absolute panic, the narrative masterfully locks Luna into her thrilling, highly inescapable new royal destiny. Exhausted from the chaotic morning, Luna heavily reflects on the incredibly rough ordeal she just endured. A stern royal official formally announces that Luna will officially be staying at the Grand Palace as a saintess starting today. Completely blindsided by the sudden decree, the frantic family is forcefully commanded to sign the official royal contract. Boiling with intense fury, Riefel aggressively accuses the womanizing prince of abusing his immense authority to steal her cute younger sister. Maintaining chilling professional composure, the official diplomatically ignores the future Grand Saintess's highly treasonous outburst. Pressing the terrifying reality of their situation, he firmly reminds the enraged family that this mandate is a direct, inescapable order from the king himself. Slamming her hands down in pure outrage, a seething Riefel furiously denounces the absolute royal mandate as complete tyranny. Despite her older sister fiercely burning with immense protective anger, the grim reality of their social standing violently crushes their defiance. Recognizing their extreme vulnerability as a humble count family, Luna somberly accepts that defying a direct royal order is completely impossible. Suddenly catching a highly energetic and incredibly familiar voice, Luna's attention violently snaps toward the bustling academy hallway. Stepping majestically into the chaotic academy, the dazzling presence of Prince Andy instantly commands the absolute awe of the entire student body. Spotting the breathtaking royal, a massive chorus of swooning female students wildly erupts in pure, unadulterated adoration. Flocking frantically around him, the captivated girls enthusiastically praise his incredibly vibrant aura and flawlessly glowing skin. Observing quietly from the shadows, Luna silently marvels at how the prince's exhausted eye bags have completely vanished as he shines like the dazzling sun. Overwhelmed abruptly by a sudden wave of intense embarrassment, she violently remembers the highly intimate, deeply scandalous secret they now share. Blushing furiously, she frantically internalizes the shocking reality that she actually slept in the very same bed as the magnificent prince just last night. Screaming in pure romantic ecstasy, the massive mob of love-struck girls aggressively surges forward and violently shoves Luna completely out of the way. Knocked utterly off balance by the chaotic stampede, the helpless dream user tumbles forcefully toward the hard stone floor. Crashing painfully onto the ground, she winces in pain as the relentless crowd completely tramples past her to reach the charming royal. Groaning in quiet agony, the heavily bruised girl slowly struggles to lift herself up from the unforgiving academy corridor. Sadly watching the dazzling prince completely absorbed by his adoring fans, Luna bitterly accepts that she is nothing more than a worthless roadside stone to him. Staring defeatedly at his distant, radiant smile, she heavily realizes their deeply magical shared night means absolutely nothing in the harsh real world. Clutching her aching chest, the incredibly resilient girl fiercely pushes past her painful social rejection and forces herself to stand upright. Shaking off the bitter humiliation, she boldly resolves to focus entirely on the terrifying mystery actively haunting the royal's shattered mind. Pondering the horrific nightmare with intense gravity, she violently questions the true, horrifying identity of the massive demon actively tormenting Prince Andy. Recalling the crushing, terrifying weight of the monstrous entity, she quickly recognizes the immense danger still lurking deep within his subconscious. Understanding the severe magical threat, Luna fiercely concludes that her own dream powers must become significantly stronger to properly protect the suffering prince. Marching with absolute determination, the highly motivated dream user quickly storms into the massive, silent Grand Library to initiate her desperate research. Scanning the towering, endless bookshelves, she desperately hunts for any crucial magical knowledge that could completely unlock the secrets of the subconscious. Diving aggressively into her intense studies, the highly focused girl rapidly flips through heavy, ancient tomes seeking hidden dream lore. Burying her face deep into the dense academic pages, she meticulously absorbs every single obscure psychological fact she can uncover. Startled abruptly by a highly unexpected geological passage, she blinks in sheer confusion at a detailed description regarding the surface of granite. Realizing her chaotic, panicked reading led to a massive error, she intensely glares at the completely irrelevant geological text. Chuckling awkwardly at her own incredibly silly mistake, a highly amused Luna realizes she accidentally picked up a mundane book about literal rocks. Brushing off a passing, condescending glance from a snobby noble girl, the fiercely determined student absolutely refuses to let the petty judgment distract her. Smiling with newfound unshakable confidence, she boldly declares that she is entirely unafraid of any foolish aristocratic mockery. Snatching a highly relevant psychological tome from the shelf, she eagerly prepares to devour a promising text specifically titled Dreams and Psychiatry. Opening the heavy, knowledge-filled book, her sharp eyes immediately lock onto a deeply fascinating and incredibly complex academic paragraph. Scanning the profound medical text, she shockingly learns that horrifying dream monsters are actually screaming symbols of deeply suppressed emotions and intense powerlessness. Uncovering the tragic royal truth, Luna gasps as the book completely reveals that the monstrous demon likely represents deeply carved, unresolved childhood fear haunting the prince. Luna silently contemplates the dark revelation regarding deeply rooted childhood trauma. Pondering the horrific possibilities, she desperately wonders if Prince Andy experienced something truly terrible long ago. Exiting the bustling academy after school, Lady Luna is suddenly greeted by an unexpected presence. The impeccably dressed royal retainer respectfully announces his arrival to officially escort her back to the Grand Palace. A heavily flustered Luna stammers nervously about traveling home in such an unbelievably conspicuous royal carriage. The extravagant royal carriage swiftly departs the academy grounds while drawing immense attention from the stunned students. Riding in absolute luxury, the overwhelmed girl silently absorbs the breathtaking grandeur of her majestic royal transport. Arriving at her grand destination, she is formally presented to Lady Luna's magnificent personal room within the palace. Stepping inside the pristine chambers, she gasps in pure awe at the unbelievably luxurious accommodations. A cheerful and polite maid gracefully bows while introducing herself as Luna's newly appointed personal attendant, Sarah. Eagerly accepting the warm hospitality, Luna enthusiastically asks the kind maid to please take good care of her. Seeking a brief afternoon escape, the curious guest wonders if she can safely explore outside until dinner time. Securing quick permission, she excitedly asks if she can peacefully sketch the beautiful castle grounds before her evening meal. Wandering through the grand royal courtyards, the highly observant dream user begins her quiet artistic exploration. Gripping her sketchbook firmly, she actively resolves to understand the majestic place where Prince Andy actually grew up. Delving deep into her magical preparations, she hopes exploring his childhood home will significantly help her understand his tormented dreams. Finding a breathtakingly serene outdoor location, the inspired artist carefully surveys the stunning castle architecture. Settling down in the peaceful outdoor sanctuary, she happily decides to begin her detailed drawing right there. Frantically rummaging through her small bag, a highly panicked Luna suddenly realizes her essential sketching pen is completely missing. Emerging seamlessly from the shadows, a highly familiar royal voice calmly asks if she is looking for this exact item. Startled by his sudden appearance, she heavily stammers while the prince logically defends his natural presence within his own castle. Spinning around in absolute shock, a bewildered Luna wildly questions why Prince Andy has suddenly appeared before her. Handing over the missing item, the dashing prince smoothly explains that he originally found it in the busy courtyard this morning. Violently flashing back to her highly humiliating morning fall, a heavily blushing Luna finally connects the chaotic dots. Confessing his subtle observation, he explains his inability to return it earlier while Luna marvels that he actually noticed her. Breaking the heavy romantic tension, the curious royal gently asks if she genuinely enjoys the quiet art of drawing. Explaining her magical craft, the passionate dream user firmly states that heavily observing reality profoundly impacts the overall quality of dreams. Elaborating on her rigorous methods, she emphasizes the absolute necessity of deeply absorbing natural details through sketching and extensive reading. Narrowing her intense focus, she seriously mentions that the horrifying threat lurking inside his personal dreams seemed incredibly dangerous. Staring intently at her deeply determined expression, the heavily moved prince softly trails off in absolute awe. Offering an incredibly massive royal favor, Prince Andy confidently promises to completely open the highly restricted palace archives for Luna. Completely short-circuiting from sheer embarrassment, a highly flustered Luna loudly panics upon hearing the breathtaking prince actually say her name. Her entire face erupting in a violent blush, the overwhelmed girl clutches her rapidly beating heart in pure romantic agony. Stammering through her deep insecurities, she shyly admits it feels incredibly strange being recognized as herself rather than just Riefl's sister. Chuckling softly at her heavy self-doubt, the charming prince warmly dismisses her deeply ingrained social insecurities. Gazing up at his incredibly handsome face, Luna silently marvels at the majestic prince who usually appears so effortlessly cool. Recognizing his hidden emotional depth, the perceptive dream user happily realizes the royal actually possesses various beautifully genuine expressions. Snapping out of her intense daze, she awkwardly deflects his sudden question about the massive pile of strange items she brought. Proudly presenting her bizarre collection, the highly enthusiastic girl loudly announces her massive arsenal of highly effective sleep aid goods. Energetically explaining her unconventional methods, she fiercely showcases a sleep-inducing herb alongside a massive, heavily comforting stuffed animal body pillow. Luna eagerly presents a brilliantly custom-blended aroma oil as a powerful new addition to her magical sleep aid arsenal. She confidently grasps Prince Andy's large hand, gently explaining the crucial existence of hidden pressure points scattered across the human palm. Expertly massaging his tense muscles, she reveals that skillfully stimulating these exact oriental points profoundly improves overall health while inducing massive relaxation. The highly mesmerized royal gazes silently at her incredibly focused expression as she flawlessly works the soothing magical oil into his skin. She softly details how this specific jasmine-based aroma was meticulously formulated to absolutely guarantee a deeply undisturbed, restful sleep. A sudden, violent wave of intense embarrassment washes over Luna as she horrifyingly realizes just how deeply suggestive their highly intimate physical positioning appears. Slicing cleanly through the thick, suffocating romantic tension, an incredibly serious Prince Andy abruptly calls out the flustered girl's name. Startled completely out of her rapidly spiraling romantic thoughts, a wildly blushing Luna swiftly snaps her full, undivided attention back to the royal. Shattering the previously peaceful mood, he aggressively questions her professional theories regarding the true, hidden identity of the mysterious guy hunting him. The tormented prince coldly and solemnly clarifies that he is exclusively referring to the horrifying demonic entity actively dominating his nightly dreams. Shocked to her very core by the sudden, terrifying shift in topic, Luna's breath violently catches in her throat. Staring defeatedly down at his own hands, a profoundly exhausted Prince Andy heavily admits he has absolutely no clue what the dark monster represents. Recalling her frantic psychological research regarding deeply rooted childhood trauma, Luna desperately presses the solemn prince for any possible hidden clues. Gazing blindly into the oppressive room, he chillingly reveals that the demonic entity constantly and aggressively demands him to hand something over. Dropping an absolute, earth-shattering horror upon her, the targeted royal explicitly states that the massive beast actively desires his literal physical body. The heavy, utterly suffocating weight of this terrifying demonic threat violently crashes down upon the entirely speechless dream user. Locking his intense, highly desperate eyes with his magical savior, Prince Andy firmly concludes that the sinister demon absolutely intends to permanently possess him. A dreadful, profoundly icy silence completely blankets the luxurious royal bedroom as the sheer, agonizing magnitude of his nightly torment fully sets in. Processing the horrific, inescapable reality of his cursed existence, Luna stares at the tragically burdened young man with overwhelming, deep empathy. Her highly compassionate heart violently breaks as she intimately imagines the excruciating, soul-crushing pain of facing a parasitic body snatcher every single night. Boiling over with immense, highly protective resolve, the courageous girl fiercely vows to flawlessly plunge his shattered mind into a profoundly healing dream. Channeling her breathtaking, unparalleled magical prowess, the determined dream user seamlessly transitions their intertwined consciousness directly into the ethereal realm. Materializing softly into the mystical, ever-shifting dreamscape, Luna immediately begins surveying the incredibly vibrant, highly unpredictable new environment. Scanning the beautiful magical surroundings with sharp eyes, she actively strategizes to quickly locate the highly vulnerable, innocent child manifestation of Prince Andy. She cautiously and quietly navigates the winding, misty terrain of his fractured royal subconscious while remaining fiercely alert for demonic threats. A sudden, highly energetic movement in the distance violently catches the hyper-observant dream user's completely undivided attention. Rushing forward with boundless, unadulterated joy, she happily exclaims to the shifting void that she has successfully found the wandering Prince Andy. Pausing abruptly in pure, unadulterated confusion, Luna quickly realizes something is drastically and magically different about this specific royal avatar. She gasps in utter shock, instantly noticing the energetic young prince has noticeably grown physically older compared to their previous chaotic dream encounter. Frantically pondering the complex magical mechanics of the subconscious, she deeply wonders exactly why his dream avatar would suddenly rapidly age like this. Shaking off her intense analytical confusion with a warm smile, she overwhelmingly melts at how undeniably, breathtakingly adorable the growing boy remains. Beaming with purely innocent excitement, the energetic young Prince Andy eagerly points out a massive cluster of incredibly pretty, shining stones. Dragging his magical savior toward the glittering geological discovery, he enthusiastically and correctly identifies the sparkling rocks as literal crystal and jade. Puffing his tiny chest with immense, highly adorable pride, the brilliant boy gleefully boasts about perfectly memorizing massive, highly complex encyclopedias. Smiling warmly at his breathtaking intellect, Luna happily praises the remarkably knowledgeable young royal for his undeniable academic brilliance. She gently and affectionately asks the bright-eyed, heavily fascinated child if he genuinely enjoys eagerly reading such thick, dense educational books. Nodding wildly with pure joy, the enthusiastic young prince loudly proclaims that discovering completely unknown things is undeniably incredibly fun. Watching him radiate absolute innocence and boundless, beautiful curiosity, Luna deeply marvels at his seemingly perfect, remarkably healthy childhood state. Her highly empathetic heart violently tightens as she desperately questions exactly why such a brilliantly happy child suffers from overwhelmingly terrifying, soul-crushing nightmares. Without any warning, the highly energetic young prince suddenly trips over a hidden obstacle and loudly cries out in pure, unadulterated shock. The narrative opens in absolute silence, establishing a tense and ominous atmosphere before the impending chaos. Anticipation violently mounts in the desolate quiet, expertly setting the stage for a sudden and disastrous disruption. A terrifying demon suddenly materializes out of nowhere, sparking immediate panic and overwhelming fear across the fractured battlefield. Someone desperately screams for Luna to run away from the encroaching, monstrous danger before it is too late. Ignoring the dire warning, Luna frantically cries out for Prince Andy as the perilous situation rapidly escalates into absolute chaos. Despite his incredibly young age, Prince Andy bravely steps forward to physically shield Luna from the looming, nightmarish threat. Taking command of the chaotic battlefield, Luna urgently orders the prince to fall back and leave the deadly engagement to her. She confidently identifies her strategic counterattack as a pebble antlion, preparing to unleash a devastating and inescapable environmental trap. As confusion arises, Luna expertly explains how the brutal antlion mechanism drastically drags its helpless prey down into crushing, suffocating sand. The ingenious trap violently springs into explosive action, drastically shifting the solid terrain beneath their trembling feet. To everyone's absolute shock, the massive demon is swiftly and mercilessly swallowed whole by the rapidly collapsing ground. The ravenous earth violently seals over the gaping chasm, entirely erasing the terrifying beast from physical existence. A stunned, awe-inspiring silence entirely washes over the torn landscape as the deadly threat completely and abruptly vanishes. Luna calmly details her brilliant strategy, noting that even a remarkably light pebble can unleash immense, world-shaking power when utilized perfectly. Prince Andy openly marvels at Luna's amazing combat skills, deeply relieved that the horrific demon is now permanently neutralized. Suddenly remembering something incredibly important, Prince Andy abruptly shifts his undivided attention back to a highly startled Luna. He excitedly presents her with a breathtaking gemstone, proudly revealing the dazzling, crystal-clear treasure to be a precious aquamarine. Luna gasps in pure, unadulterated surprise as Andy warmly explains he deliberately chose the beautiful stone because it perfectly matches her eyes. He gently compares her striking eye color to a pristine, flowing stream, earnestly confessing just how much he genuinely adores it. Deeply moved by the prince's tender and deeply heartfelt words, Luna murmurs softly in a state of complete romantic bliss. The sweet, emotionally charged atmosphere powerfully lingers between them in the remarkably quiet aftermath of their fierce battle. Jolting violently awake into harsh reality, Luna frantically searches for the aquamarine, heartbreakingly realizing the entire romantic encounter was merely a vivid illusion. The prince's remarkably sweet, affectionate words continue to vividly echo in her mind, leaving her absolutely breathless and deeply captivated. Later that morning, she anxiously checks on Prince Andy's physical well-being, greeting him with a remarkably bright and hopeful smile. She internally questions if her incredibly vivid, romantic vision was simply the powerful, residual consequence of her intense sketching sessions. Blushing deeply, Luna smiles warmly to herself as she fiercely cherishes the truly magical and beautiful dream she had masterfully woven. Her heart flutters wildly in her chest, leaving her fiercely debating if her intense feelings stem from professional pride or true, blooming affection. She wonders breathlessly if her rapidly racing heart is simply a highly natural reaction to the prince's incredibly radiant, perfectly well-rested appearance. Taking a quiet, desperate moment to physically compose herself, her swirling mind remains completely overwhelmed by these highly chaotic, affectionate thoughts. Heading enthusiastically into the grand library, Luna excitedly ponders what kind of magnificent, awe-inspiring dream she will expertly craft tonight. Unbeknownst to her, highly curious onlookers actively whisper about her noticeably radiant and cheerful mood as she happily breezes by. Prince Andy's wildly romantic compliment about her stream-like eyes continues to delightfully and relentlessly loop within her giddy, daydreaming mind. She giggles uncontrollably to herself, completely and utterly overjoyed by the thrilling, heart-pounding memory of him confessing his admiration. Her joyous, floating daydream is brutally and abruptly shattered when she aggressively collides with an imposing physical figure blocking her path. Luna cries out in sudden, jarring shock as she stumbles backward, hastily stammering a desperate apology for her clumsy and sudden collision. She looks up in sheer, wide-eyed bewilderment, completely taken aback by the highly intimidating shadows now towering aggressively over her. A terrible sinking feeling of utter dread washes over her as she slowly realizes she has unluckily bumped straight into Prince Andy's fierce entourage. The highly hostile entourage fiercely interrogates her, aggressively accusing her of deceptively playing the fake saintess just to secretly shadow the royal prince. Panicking wildly internally over the dangerously leaked information, Luna stammers out a weak, desperate defense regarding her strict, unbreakable confidentiality obligations. The cruel entourage mercilessly bullies her without hesitation, viciously mocking her scrawny appearance and aggressively branding her a creepy otaku scarier than any demon. Viciously mocking Luna, the cruel bullies loudly proclaim that her grandsister is unfairly favoring a pathetic dropout like her. Furious at the blatant disrespect, Luna aggressively steps forward and declares that her beloved sister has absolutely nothing to do with this. Pushing past her own deep insecurities, she bravely demands that the hostile entourage stop bad-mouthing Sister Riefel immediately. Enraged by her sudden defiance, the lead bully violently raises her hand to strike the supposedly cheeky dropout. A sudden, sharp gasp escapes Luna's lips as she desperately braces herself for the agonizing impact of the incoming blow. Stepping in with blinding speed, Prince Andy effortlessly intercepts the attack as the stunned bullies loudly question his sudden appearance. Glaring coldly at the terrified attackers, the noble prince fiercely condemns their barbaric behavior as completely unbecoming of proper young ladies. Struck dumb by the prince's terrifying aura, the aggressive girls freeze in absolute, trembling terror. Panic shatters their cruel bravado as the bullies hastily stammer desperate apologies before frantically fleeing the chaotic scene. Turning his gentle gaze back to Luna, Andy warmly asks if she is okay while she timidly admits this exact bullying is why they pretended to be strangers at the academy. A sudden spark of realization visibly hits him as he finally understands the painful truth behind their previously strained, distant interactions. Smiling warmly, Andy casually notes how incredibly refreshing it feels to finally be seen together openly. Luna internally marvels at suddenly becoming a highly conspicuous target instead of simply hiding behind her famous sister's grand shadow. Staring in breathless awe, she vividly realizes that Prince Andy possesses a drastically different, captivating persona outside of the magical dreamscape. A sudden, jarring stumble violently interrupts her racing thoughts as Luna accidentally trips forward in a clumsy daze. Sharp panic instantly spikes as bright crimson blood suddenly begins oozing freely from a fresh, nasty scrape on her fragile knee. Drawn by the sudden commotion, Sister Riefel urgently bursts onto the chaotic scene demanding to know why terrified young ladies were fleeing. Spotting the injury, Riefel frantically questions why Andy appears so utterly useless in reality as she shockingly notices the pooling blood. Luna stammers nervously as her intensely protective older sister rushes forward with frantic, wide-eyed terror at the gruesome sight. Riefel immediately drops to the dusty ground, fiercely focusing her powerful, radiant healing magic directly onto Luna's bleeding wound. Screaming her younger sister's name in pure panic, Riefel unleashes a blinding, miraculous wave of pure restorative energy. Prince Andy watches in absolute awe at the legendary healing Saintess's power, while Luna desperately pleads with Riefel not to blame him for the accidental injury. Glaring viciously at the royal prince, Riefel fiercely declares that this exact danger is why she aggressively opposed entrusting her precious sister to the royal court. Bowing his head in deep, genuine shame, Prince Andy sincerely apologizes and painfully accepts full responsibility for letting Luna get hurt. Stunned by his incredible humility, Luna softly murmurs the prince's name as a massive wave of protective affection swells within her. Frantically waving her hands, Luna aggressively defends the prince and begs him not to view her sister's frantic overprotectiveness as intentional disrespect. Smiling with unmatched grace, Prince Andy warmly dismisses the harsh insult and beautifully praises the sisters' incredibly deep, loving bond. His expression hardening with fierce resolve, he bluntly admits that quietly ignoring Luna at the academy was a catastrophic, painful mistake. Vowing fiercely to protect her from all future harm, he loudly declares his brilliant plan to proudly reveal Luna's true royal status to the entire world. Overwhelmed by the massive scale of his bold declaration, Luna stammers out a frantic question regarding exactly how he plans to execute such a wild strategy. Later that afternoon after school, an imposing royal carriage grandly awaits as the elite royal guards proudly welcome Lady Luna. Flashing a dazzling, confident smile, Prince Andy warmly invites the blushing Luna to proudly return to the Grand Palace by his royal side. Brushing off her frantic anxieties, he smoothly insists that making her highly elevated position publicly known is the most natural, effective defense. Blushing a furious crimson red, Luna frantically panics over the intensely overwhelming, highly conspicuous attention they are suddenly drawing. While desperately trying to process the wild public spectacle, Luna's racing thoughts are suddenly interrupted by Andy producing a mysterious object. Handing her a gleaming, metallic badge, he excitedly explains that it serves as absolute royal proof granting her unrestricted access to the sacred archives. Explaining his unavoidable sword practice, he warmly encourages her to explore the grand archives alone while she stammers out a deeply heartfelt, overwhelmed thank you. A sudden, tense silence beautifully hangs heavily in the warm air as the incredible weight of his deep, personal trust fully sinks in. Catching her breath in sheer disbelief, Luna nervously fixates on the incredibly intimate, trusting way he just spoke to her. Her wildly racing heart nearly explodes out of her chest as she frantically wonders if his incredibly tender gesture was highly suggestive. Entering the Grand Library, Luna marvels in absolute awe as she is warmly welcomed inside the magnificent facility. A polite, sharply dressed man formally introduces himself as Connor Babintu, the fully entrusted castle librarian. Overflowing with sheer excitement, Luna eagerly asks if she can read the entire collection, which Connor warmly allows for that specific room. She excitedly browses ancient encyclopedias detailing beautiful oriental shells, vibrant corals, and mysterious creatures from completely unexplored regions. Completely immersed in the vast knowledge, she happily giggles while thoroughly enjoying her highly thrilling historical research. Gathering endless, brilliant seeds for her magical dreams, Luna fiercely resolves to deliver this exact joyful excitement straight to Prince Andy. Gazing thoughtfully into the distance, she deeply wishes to finally see the weary, tormented prince laugh happily once again. Time swiftly and silently passes as she continues absorbing the magnificent, ancient wonders hidden within the massive library. Shocked by the rapidly setting sun, Luna urgently realizes she must pack up quickly and head back for a scheduled dinner. Just as she prepares to depart, a remarkably imposing, heavy wooden door suddenly catches her undivided, highly curious attention. Staring deeply into the quiet, mysterious shadows, she curiously wonders aloud about the heavily sealed door hidden in the very back. Connor suddenly interrupts her racing, highly focused thoughts, startling her as he politely asks if she is curious about the locked entrance. He carefully explains that passing beyond that heavy door requires a highly exclusive, special permit to browse the restricted archive inside. To her absolute, wide-eyed shock, Connor openly admits that even he severely lacks the strict authority to enter the forbidden room. Leaning in closely, he quietly reveals dark rumors that incredibly dangerous, long-banned magic books are secretly stored within. Startled violently by the dark revelation, Luna breathlessly repeats the terrifying mention of actual, highly dangerous magic books. Connor mysteriously asks if she knows the incredibly dark, ancient history of dangerous magic within the Grand Glen Night Kingdom. He grimly explains that dark magic was strictly banned long ago because terrible demonic contracts violently disturbed public morals and desires. Despite the terrifying ancient tales, Connor casually dismisses the restricted texts as highly dubious charms rather than actual, powerful magic. Struck violently by a chilling thought, Luna silently pieces together the terrifying connections between wild magic and terrible curses. A profound, overwhelming sense of absolute dread washes over her as she suddenly realizes those deadly curses might be entirely real. Desperate for any solid answers, she urgently asks Connor what exact kind of powerful person possesses the immense authority to enter the archive. Pondering the strict security deeply, Connor calmly assumes that only high-ranking royalty could successfully bypass the magical restrictions. Frantically waving her hands in a desperate panic, Luna abruptly drops the tense subject to cleverly mask her rapidly growing suspicions. Quickly changing the highly ominous topic, Connor warmly recommends a perfectly standard, safe book for her immediate reading pleasure. A heavy, highly tense silence strongly lingers as Luna walks quietly away, her wildly racing mind completely consumed by dark, terrifying theories. She fearfully hypothesizes that someone within the royal family is actively using a forbidden magic book to brutally torment Prince Andy. Analyzing the complex, dangerous situation, she confidently rules out the desperate king since he explicitly hired her to save the cursed prince. Her frantic, swirling thoughts rapidly shift toward the mysterious queen and the highly elusive first prince as the absolute prime suspects. Later that evening in her private room, she urgently asks her maid Sarah about the exact nature of His Highness, Crown Prince Evan. Sarah carefully and quietly notes that the highly mysterious crown prince is exactly 2 years apart in age from the young Prince Andy. A sudden, deeply unsettling and incredibly heavy silence abruptly falls over the visibly nervous, totally frozen maid. The incredibly heavy, dangerously oppressive atmosphere violently spikes as Luna stares intently at the deeply troubled, silent servant. Dark, terrifying possibilities relentlessly swirl in Luna's highly anxious mind as the pregnant, highly terrifying pause painfully stretches on. Overwhelmed by sudden dread, Luna completely panics internally, heavily suspecting that Crown Prince Evan is the cruel mastermind executing the curses. Her wild, terrifying theories are instantly and violently shattered when a polite maid abruptly announces an unexpected, high-ranking guest. A highly imposing, finely dressed young man boldly steps into the grand room to smoothly apologize for the sudden visit to the Dream Saintess. Staring coldly with absolute, terrifying authority, he grandly introduces himself as Evan Glen Knight, the esteemed First Prince. Absolute, violently trembling shock forcefully strikes Luna as she realizes she is now standing face to face with her prime suspect. Smiling incredibly cryptically, the terrifying Crown Prince Evan smoothly notes that he simply had not yet formally greeted her. Stunned by the unexpected arrival, Luna stammers a nervous greeting while frantically wondering why Prince Evan is suddenly here. Smiling gently, the calm prince casually suggests they sit down together and enjoy a relaxing cup of tea. The scene beautifully shifts as they settle into a quiet, heavily private setting for their impending conversation. Evan politely apologizes for moving her to a separate room, noting that lingering in an unmarried woman's bedroom is highly improper. Flustered by his deep courtesy, Luna quickly insists he shouldn't worry and could have simply summoned her instead. The prince gracefully continues the conversation, projecting an incredibly calm and deeply reassuring demeanor. A remarkably peaceful, gentle atmosphere completely envelopes the quiet room, rapidly easing all of Luna's initial anxieties. They sit peacefully together, allowing a surprisingly comfortable and warm silence to beautifully settle between them. Luna quietly observes that Evan's profoundly calm nature is the exact, striking opposite of the highly flashy Prince Andy. Gathering her courage, she nervously breaks the silence to formally ask what specific business brought the prince to her. Evan sincerely thanks her for miraculously healing his brother, noting that Andy has been exceptionally lively these past 2 days. Shocked by his pure gratitude, Luna marvels that the busy first prince traveled all the way just to deliver this heartfelt message. Smiling warmly, Evan reveals that their overjoyed parents fiercely hope Andy will finally return to his old, happy self. Luna quietly repeats his poignant words in sheer surprise, deeply intrigued by the mention of Andy's mysterious past personality. She instantly realizes that the incredibly cheerful prince she interacts with in her dreams is completely different from his gloomy reality. Evan fondly recalls that the past Andy was a wonderfully cheerful child, and they used to be incredibly close brothers. His expression darkens as he explains that relentless nightmares eventually forced young Andy to completely close off his fragile heart. Desperate for a cure, the royal family aggressively consulted countless doctors and suspicious magicians to absolutely no avail. Evan looks at her with immense respect, boldly declaring that Luna is the absolute only one who successfully healed Andy's mind. Feeling a massive wave of guilt, Luna mentally crushes herself for ever disrespectfully suspecting this incredibly caring older brother. She is deeply moved, clearly witnessing that Prince Evan is truly and profoundly worried about his suffering younger sibling. Bowing slightly, Evan earnestly and desperately pleads with the Dream Saintess to please continue taking good care of Andy. Luna happily agrees, warmly realizing that his deep familial concern perfectly mirrors how her own family fiercely worries about her. She beautifully reflects that the pure, unconditional desire to protect and save one's family is a universally shared human feeling. A dark thought violently pierces her calm mind as she desperately wonders who is intentionally forcing these horrific nightmares onto Andy. Frustrated by the complete lack of clues, she realizes the terrifying mystery has violently reset entirely back to square one. The scene rapidly shifts to a later encounter where Prince Andy quickly notices Luna's deeply troubled, highly anxious expression. Andy gently asks why she is fiercely frowning, prompting Luna to frantically wave her hands and deny any underlying issues. Quickly changing the subject, an excited Andy brightly calls her name and eagerly urges her to look at something special. He proudly reveals that he instructed his royal maid to perfectly burn the custom aromatic blend Luna had carefully crafted. Taking a deep breath, he smiles brightly and happily notes what a wonderfully soothing and incredibly nice scent it produces. Luna watches in absolute awe, realizing he used to fiercely dread sleeping but is now genuinely looking forward to it. Beaming with childish excitement, Andy eagerly wonders aloud what kind of amazing, magical dream he will get to explore today. A massive wave of pure joy violently washes over Luna as she completely melts at the sight of his brilliant, genuine smile. They magically transition into the vibrant dreamscape, completely surrounded by a vast, breathtakingly beautiful underwater world. A young, energetic Andy marvels at the stunning aquatic environment, excitedly screaming that they are literally exploring deep inside the sea. Luna giggles warmly, finding his tiny, adventurous dream self to be incredibly and utterly adorable during today's exciting dive. Pointing excitedly, Andy proudly shares knowledge from a book, flawlessly explaining how a specific fish dramatically changes its name. He accurately identifies the creature as a tropical fish, while Luna quietly wonders why he always vividly manifests as a small child. Luna brightly praises his admirable knowledge, and Andy excitedly confirms his deep, passionate love for imagining the world through encyclopedias. A heavy sense of doom violently crashes down as Prince Andy grimly confesses that he will soon lose his true self. Struck by sudden terror, Luna gasps in absolute shock at the prince's incredibly ominous declaration. Staring intensely into her eyes, Andy desperately begs Luna to never forget him. Frantic with worry, Luna urgently demands to know who planted such a horrifying idea in the prince's mind. Looking completely lost, the young prince quietly admits that he genuinely does not know the dark source. A chilling certainty grips Andy as he grimly accepts that his terrifying fate will arrive before he even realizes it. Tears well in his eyes as he heartbreakingly reveals a dark prophecy claiming he can never become an adult. The somber moment violently shatters as a monstrous demon, even more vicious than before, abruptly attacks. Furious at the relentless assault, Luna boldly screams at the terrifying stalker demon. Standing fiercely between the beast and the prince, she fiercely vows to protect Andy from this targeted malice as long as she is a dream user. Overjoyed by her immense bravery, Andy proudly cheers that Luna is amazingly strong and cool. He beams with radiant gratitude, loudly declaring his love and thanking her for fiercely protecting him. Reaching out with desperate affection, he begs her one final time to always remember him. A sudden, blinding flash of magical light forcefully erupts across the chaotic dreamscape. The vibrant dream violently dissipates, abruptly plunging them back into the harsh reality of the waking world. Waking up in a surprisingly good mood, Andy happily laughs about the incredibly refreshing thrill of charging the demon with sharks. Desperate for answers, Luna nervously attempts to ask Prince Andy about his terrifyingly fatalistic words from the dream. Her urgent question is abruptly cut off when a polite maid suddenly enters bringing a fresh change of clothes. Luna stares in pure confusion, sharply noticing that the provided outfit is definitely not his usual academy uniform. The grand room bustles with rapid movement as the young prince quickly begins dressing in his formal royal attire. Andy casually explains that he is taking a day off from school to handle a completely full schedule of official royal duties. Masking her deep anxiety, Luna politely encourages the busy prince to do his absolute best. A tense, heavy silence lingers as the fully dressed prince prepares to rapidly depart for his grand royal obligations. Luna watches him leave, her mind frantically racing with overwhelming, deeply terrifying questions. She mentally kicks herself in extreme frustration for completely missing her crucial chance to ask about his plea to be remembered. Unable to focus on anything else, she heavily decides to take a quiet nap in the peaceful backyard to clear her swirling thoughts. Her much-needed rest is violently interrupted when she overhears some gossiping students eagerly discussing Prince Andy. The chatting girls loudly lament how incredibly disappointing it is that the handsome prince is completely absent today. They casually mention that the queen has been mysteriously bedridden for months, forcing the young prince to cover official duties. Violently startled by the massive revelation, Luna accidentally cries out in absolute shock regarding the queen's unknown illness. Panicking fiercely over her clumsy slip-up, she frantically stammers out a weak excuse about worrying for the kingdom's safety. The girls casually note that while the queen is terribly fatigued, doctors remarkably claim there is absolutely nothing physically wrong with her. A dark, terrifying realization powerfully strikes Luna as she actively connects the prince's demonic curses to the queen's mysterious magical ailment. Deeply disturbed by the horrific implications, her anxious mind wildly races to uncover the true, hidden mastermind. The crushing atmosphere abruptly darkens as a solemn servant painfully laments why today of all days must be the final day. Scanning the highly depressed castle grounds, Luna shockingly notices that everyone looks as if they have completely given up on all hope. She tragically realizes that despite the overwhelming despair, today is actually supposed to be Prince Andy's happy birthday. Her heart furiously leaps into her throat as a highly somber Prince Andy suddenly approaches and calls out her name. Andy softly apologizes for summoning her, grimly stating that this is the absolute last time they will speak. Absolute, freezing terror forcefully crushes Luna's soul as she instantly connects his tragic farewell to his terrifying dream prophecy about never becoming an adult. Prince Andy unexpectedly bids Luna goodnight, leaving a heavy, foreboding silence in his immediate wake. Luna stands deeply confused, completely unaware of the dark circumstances forcing his sudden and grim departure. Remembering that manipulating dreams deeply touches a person's heart, she fiercely realizes she alone possesses the unique power to heal Andy. Her racing mind violently sharpens as she notes he never usually employs such a highly final greeting. Burning with fierce, newfound resolve, Luna boldly vows to aggressively protect Lord Andy from the rapidly encroaching shadows. Diving directly into his magical dreamscape to uncover his hidden feelings, she brilliantly conjures a breathtaking, spectacular amusement park. Amidst the dazzling, vibrant lights, a completely stunned Andy suddenly realizes that today marks his actual birthday. Luna proudly presents a magnificent house made entirely of sweets, prompting the excitedly grinning prince to eagerly ask if he can devour it. Smiling warmly at his boundless, childish joy, Luna gently calls out the mesmerized young prince's name. She beautifully explains that a birthday serves as a true miracle, sparking immense, radiating happiness for countless people. Exploding with pure affection, she boldly declares that his incredibly special day brings immense, overwhelming joy to her as well. Staring intensely into his wide eyes, she finally delivers a beautifully earnest and deeply heartfelt birthday wish. Giggling softly, she thrills at finally seizing the rare chance to deliver the precious greeting she tragically missed in reality. Utterly overwhelmed by her profound kindness, Andy softly thanks her with raw, heartbreakingly genuine sincerity. Erupting with infectious, wild energy, Luna excitedly declares that it is officially time to ignite the grand celebration. The magical festival violently springs to life, completely flooding the vibrant dreamscape with explosive joy and brilliant fireworks. Breathtaking, dazzling spectacles continuously surround the awestruck prince as the magnificent amusement park operates at full, magical capacity. The pair magically shares a profoundly peaceful, quiet moment, entirely swept up in the sheer wonder of the magnificent birthday festivities. Andy heartbreakingly confesses that his devastated family always mourns his birthday, as the cursed day merely drags him closer to his tragic end. Smiling bravely through his lingering pain, he earnestly admits this marks his very first genuinely spectacular and fun birthday. He brightly realizes that a precious birthday should never count down to doom, but rather fiercely cherish a beautiful beginning. Staring at her with absolute, unwavering gratitude, he loudly declares that she miraculously helped him finally grasp this beautiful truth. A sudden, intense wave of raw emotion violently crashes between them, prompting Luna to gasp Lord Andy's name in pure shock. Tears violently streaming down his flushed face, Andy desperately cries out his burning desire to stay asleep and grow up alongside her. The crushing emotional weight of his tragic, desperate confession violently shatters the surrounding magical illusion. Absolute panic fiercely grips Luna as her carefully crafted dream rapidly destabilizes beneath the prince's violently turbulent emotions. The beautiful, glowing amusement park violently warps and collapses, aggressively tearing away the joyful, protective barrier. A blinding, chaotic magical flash aggressively plunges Luna straight into a completely different, deeply terrifying hidden memory. She shockingly materializes in a familiar room, horrifyingly overhearing someone scream about baby Andy being brutally sacrificed to a demon. A grim, terrifying voice chillingly reveals a dark contract demanding the young prince's royal body the exact moment he comes of age. The devastating truth violently unfolds, detailing how a desperate former king struck a demonic pact to save the starving, ruined kingdom. The ruthless, ancient demon saved the desperate realm, fiercely demanding the sacrificial body of a royal prince born exactly a century later. The horrific, inescapable decree brutally condemns Andy to die at a young age, entirely sealing his doomed fate 100 years ago. A fragile baby's piercing, terrified wail violently echoes through the crushing, oppressive darkness of the tragically unfolding nightmare. A weeping, devastated woman desperately begs for baby Andy's forgiveness as the helpless infant continues to cry relentlessly. Luna stares in absolute, violently trembling horror as the crushing, suffocating weight of the kingdom's dark secret fully strikes her soul. Jolting violently awake in harsh reality, a heavily panicked Andy desperately shakes the collapsed Luna while she breathlessly gasps his name. She stares deeply at the terrified young prince, completely overwhelmed by the horrific, fatal secret he silently harbors. Lunging forward with explosive, uncontrollable emotion, Luna aggressively tackles the startled prince into a desperate, crushing embrace. Clutching him fiercely, she tearfully and urgently demands to know exactly how long he has borne the crushing knowledge of his tragic fate. Smiling sadly, Prince Andy quietly admits to Luna that she has finally uncovered his terrifying hidden truth. He reveals that he vividly remembers overhearing his devastated parents discussing his dark fate while lying in his crib as a baby. Growing older and slowly learning the meaning of those horrific words, the young prince finally understood his inescapable doom. He chillingly explains that a demon will hijack his body upon coming of age, forcing a knight to ruthlessly behead him. Trembling with suppressed fear, Andy apologizes for his silence, confessing he pretended ignorance because the looming demonic threat terrified him. Struck to her core, Luna realizes with horror that the young Lord Andy has harbored a crushing fear of death his entire life. Despite knowing he will never reach adulthood, Andy beams a tragic smile, declaring this final, joyful birthday completely satisfied his heart. A heavy, heartbreaking silence hangs in the air as the immense weight of his grim acceptance washes over the shattered dreamscape. The tender moment violently shatters as a monstrous, terrifying demon abruptly erupts into the once peaceful birthday celebration. Towering with malicious intent, the grotesque beast aggressively expands in size, rapidly eclipsing the surrounding magical amusement park. Screaming his name in sheer panic, Luna frantically braces herself against the overwhelming presence of the colossal nightmare. Desperate to protect her, a terrified Andy urgently begs Luna to flee and leave him behind to face the deadly beast alone. Refusing to abandon him, Luna fiercely steps forward and boldly declares she will absolutely save Lord Andy from his doomed fate. Staring in absolute awe, Andy watches as Luna's magical dream body miraculously begins expanding to match the colossal demon's height. Towering triumphantly over the battlefield, a giant Luna fiercely demands that they survive and become grown-ups together. Radiating immense magical power, her gigantic, glowing form completely dominates the shattered landscape in a breathtaking display of strength. Utterly bewildered by her massive transformation, tiny Andy wildly questions if normal adults actually grow to such a colossal size. Gripping a massive magical hammer, the giant Luna fiercely challenges the towering demon to violently settle their grudge right here and now. Unleashing a deafening battle cry, She aggressively swings her colossal weapon downward to crush the shadowy beast. The massive strike violently connects with blinding force, sending explosive shockwaves ripping through the fractured dreamscape. Pushed backward by the overwhelming impact, Luna grunts in frustration as she realizes this monstrous fiend is significantly stronger than before. Watching his fierce protector struggle against the beast, a heavily panicked Andy screams her name into the chaotic storm. The relentless demon aggressively pushes back against Luna's desperate defense, violently threatening to overpower her magical strength. Refusing to remain a helpless victim, a fiercely determined Andy boldly declares that he will fight alongside her to protect Luna. Shocked by his sudden burst of immense courage, Luna gasps his name as a brilliant light rapidly engulfs the tiny prince. A massive, blinding surge of golden energy explosively erupts from Andy's small body, directly empowering the chaotic dreamscape. Feeling the overwhelming surge of magical support, Luna fiercely grins and confidently roars that they can definitely win this battle. The giant hammer dramatically glows with blinding intensity as it perfectly resonates with Lord Andy's incredibly brave, beating heart. Screaming with absolute, unrestrained power, Luna mercilessly drives the brilliantly glowing hammer directly into the demon's core. The colossal nightmare violently detonates in a blinding explosion of shattered light and dark, magical debris. The massive shockwave completely shatters the battlefield, violently throwing a rapidly shrinking Luna backward into the blinding white void. Frantically rushing to her side as the dust clears, a deeply worried Andy urgently asks if she survived the devastating blast. Smiling brightly amidst the total wreckage, Luna triumphantly cheers that they successfully destroyed the terrifying stalker demon. Staring in absolute wonder, Andy points out that the remains of the fearsome monster have bizarrely transformed into harmless scraps of paper. Overwhelmed by sudden, miraculous hope, a tearful Andy softly asks if he is finally allowed to keep living today. Pulling him close, Luna warmly and fiercely assures him that they will absolutely welcome today and tomorrow together. The young prince fiercely buries his tear-streaked face into her chest, completely breaking down in a deeply emotional, relieving embrace. Gripping her tightly with absolute gratitude, he softly and earnestly thanks Luna for miraculously saving his doomed life. To her absolute shock, Luna gasps as a brilliant, warm light suddenly transforms the young Lord Andy into a breathtakingly handsome adult. Staring down at her with intense, burning affection, the now-adult Prince Andy softly confesses that he holds deep feelings for her.